We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Here we go, moving on to Nick B. We mentioned that Dolby Vision might never come to projectors. If that's the case, when will we know the best time to invest in an HDR projector? Rob?
Seems like it's not a bad time right now, honestly, with the newest JVCs. I would like, if you're able, like Epson's 5040 is the least expensive fully HDR capable projector that's out there right now. Mm-hmm. It can't do 4K 60. It's limited to 4K 30 or 4K 24. So
is there any 4K 60 content to get?
There's Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk on Ultra HD Blu-ray. That's in 4K 60.
What's that?
One
What's
movie.
That?
It's one movie.
That's a movie.
That was Ang Lee's movie, the Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, that he shot in 3D with two cameras, both cameras running at 120 frames per second. It was 120 frames per second per eye.
Wow.
That's how he shot it. The Ultra HD Blu-ray format can't hold that, so it's just 2D, 60 frames per second. That's what you get on the home release.
Wow.
But it's also video games. Video games will run at 4K 60.
There you go.
So maybe wait one more year. It's always going to keep improving, right? If you're worried, now is the time when I can buy a projector and nothing better will ever come out, well, that's never going to happen.
No, there's no such thing. But I do like that you brought up video games, because there might be a really good reason if video games are your thing and you want that higher frame rate and you want to do it at 4K and you have a powerful enough computer with a powerful enough video card. If that's your sort of jam, then you might want to wait. If you're mostly just watching typical movies shot at 24 frames per second, and or just 30 frames per 29.97, whatever it is for television, then you're probably okay to go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, and if you can afford one of the JVCs, the new ones, the X570, X770, X970, if you can afford one of those, they do it all. And now they're processing HDR10 automatically and properly out of the box. You don't have to do any of the manual settings that you did with the X550 and X750 and X950. So if you can afford one of the JVCs, pretty good time to buy right now. If you're looking for lower cost, maybe wait one more year, because without doubt, that'll be fixed in next year's model.
Everything keeps moving. Nick has a couple of more parts to his question here. We've mentioned that not all flat panels do a great job at tone mapping HDR10, and we've mentioned that already on this particular podcast. We also mentioned that one reason Dolby Vision can't really work for projectors is because there are so many variables in the viewing environment. Yes. Yeah. So how can HDR10 tone mapping work on a projector? And will dynamic metadata improve things?
I was thinking about this. Dynamic metadata might actually complicate things.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why a static metadata HDR10 signal can work just fine with a projector is you can say, well, what's the brightest this movie ever gets? What's the brightest this projector can ever get? That's where those two things are, and we'll tone map everything below that. Right. Or you can just say, here's how bright we're going to get, and we're just going to clip everything above that and not worry about it, right? So with static metadata, it's actually kind of easy, because you might not know what the viewing environment is, but you do know how bright you can drive this projector maximally, and you simply set that to the single maximum value that's given in the static metadata for HDR10. You go, well, there you go. That's what it is.
There you go.
So in a way, dynamic metadata could actually, dynamic metadata would simply say, here's the brightest this scene or this frame gets, and maybe now we just peg that to the brightest that the projector gets.
Yeah,
or something.
But you can see how that would mess up on a projector, because then if there's less dynamic range in one scene, all of a sudden your black levels come up.
That's right.
And then back down again for the next scene. So that doesn't make sense.
And it's like, what if the maximum brightness in this scene is only, on a flat panel display that could show all the way up to 1,000 nits? What if the brightest this scene ever gets is only 70 nits?
Yeah.
Right? Are we going to peg that to the maximum? That wouldn't make any sense.
No, it wouldn't.
It might actually be more complicated to implement dynamic metadata on a projector. It's easier to implement static metadata.
Yeah.
Because then you can just say, okay, the brightest this movie ever gets is 800 nits. We'll peg that to the brightest this projector can get, and we'll just smoothly ramp everything below that. So,
I mean, is that what happens in theaters where you go pay to watch a movie?
in a Dolby Vision or a Dolby Cinema?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the Dolby Cinema, they're grading it specifically for the Dolby Cinema because they have that worked out very carefully. They Dolby
Those people with doctorates I was talking about come in and measure.
Dolby
with
keeps
scientific
a strict iron fist on the specifications for Dolby Cinema, so it's graded specifically for those theaters. So it's a slightly different situation.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.